The auction yard went silent when Clara Bell took the branding iron from the blacksmith's hand and stepped toward the wild steer. Every man in Abilene had been yelling a moment before. They had shouted for ropes, for rifles, for somebody with sense to get away from the chute before the animal broke loose. The steer had already split one gate, knocked a ranch hand into the dust, and sent a horse rearing so hard it nearly fell backward. But Clara did not run. She was 24 years old, broad through the hips, round in the face, heavy in a way that made cruel men smile before she even spoke. Folks had called her slow, soft, useless, too much woman for a saddle, and not enough for a ranch. Then the steer lunged at the boy trapped beside the rail. Clara moved first. She threw her whole weight against the broken gate, shoved the boy clear with one arm, and with the other hand, slapped the hot iron against the steer's shoulder before it could twist away. The mark hissed. The animal bellowed. The crowd gasped, not because the brand had taken, but because the woman they had been laughing at had just done what none of them dared to do. And Wade Mercer, the man who had been forced to take her as a wife, watched from across the yard as if the ground beneath his boots had shifted. 3 weeks earlier, Clara Bell had arrived in Larkspur Crossing with one carpetbag, one pair of worn boots, and a letter folded so many times the creases had turned white. She had ridden in the back of a freight wagon beside sacks of cornmeal and fence wire, saying little while the driver talked enough for both of them. The country around them was high, dry, and golden, with grass that bent under the wind like old wheat and hills that looked soft from a distance, but cut sharp once a person had to cross them. The driver, a gray-whiskered man named Sutter, glanced at her near sundown. "You know what kind of place you're headed to?" Clara held the carpetbag in her lap. "A ranch." "That ain't what I asked." She looked toward the line of cottonwoods in the distance. "I know Mr. Mercer lost his father. I know there's a debt. I know Judge Bellamy said the marriage settles a contract between families." Sutter sucked his teeth. "That judge don't settle anything unless somebody else profits." Clara did not answer. She already knew enough about Judge Amos Bellamy. He had taken her dead uncle's debts, twisted them with court fees, and told Clara she had two choices: marry Wade Mercer under an old family agreement, or watch the little property her mother left be sold at auction by Friday. The contract had been written years before by men who thought women were signatures waiting to be used. Bellamy had smiled when he explained it, looking over Clara's body with the bored disgust of a man inspecting a mule he did not want to buy. "Mercer won't keep you long," he had said. "But long enough." Long enough for what? Clara did not yet know. But she had learned that powerful men rarely moved a woman from one place to another without a reason. The Mercer ranch came into view just as the sun dropped behind the western ridge. It was not the grand cattle spread Clara had imagined from the name. The main house leaned a little to the east. The barn roof had fresh patches beside old holes. The corrals were sturdy but tired. Beyond them, cattle stood thin against the fading light, their ribs showing like fingers beneath hide. A man waited near the yard gate. Wade Mercer was 32, tall, dark-haired, and built by work rather than ease. His shirt was dusty, his sleeves rolled to the forearms, his face cut with the kind of tiredness that sleep could not fix. He looked at Clara as she climbed down from the wagon. He did not offer his hand. He did not smile. His eyes moved from her face to the carpetbag, then to the letter in her fingers. "So it's true," he said. Clara stood straight, though her feet ached. "If you mean the contract, yes. I didn't ask for a wife. I didn't ask to be one." That made Sutter cough into his sleeve, hiding a laugh. Wade looked at her again, sharper this time. Behind him, two ranch hands had stopped pretending not to stare. One was young and freckled, with red hair under a battered hat. The other was older, lean as rope, with a gray mustache and eyes that had survived too many seasons to be easily surprised. Wade turned toward the older man. "Put her in the room off the kitchen." Clara's cheeks warmed, but she held her chin level. "I can work." "I didn't say you couldn't." "No," she said. "You only said it like I was cargo." The red-haired hand looked down fast. The older one's mustache moved as if he had nearly smiled. Wade's jaw tightened. "You'll have a roof. You'll have food. When Bellamy's papers are satisfied, you can go wherever you please." "And until then?" "Until then," Wade said. "Try not to get in the way." He walked back toward the barn before she could answer. Clara stood in the yard with dust on her skirt and the whole ranch looking at her like a mistake delivered by wagon. Then she picked up her carpetbag and followed the older hand toward the house. His name was Silas Boone. He had worked for Wade's father for 21 years and spoke as if every word cost money. He showed her the small room, the kitchen, the pantry, and the stove that had not been cleaned properly in weeks. Flour had gone sour in a bin. Salt pork sat uncovered. A kettle had boiled dry and blackened on the bottom. Silas watched her take in the mess. "Last cook left?" "Last cook was Wade's sister," Silas said. "She married a storekeeper in Wichita. Before that, Mrs. Mercer ran it." "His mother?" "Dead 8 years." "His father?" "Buried in March." Clara nodded. She rolled up her sleeves. By midnight, the kitchen smelled like soap, coffee, and cornbread. By dawn, beans simmered on the stove, and biscuits sat wrapped in a clean cloth. Clara had found dried apples in a tin, cut away the spoiled pieces, and stewed the rest with molasses. She did not make a show of the work. She simply moved from one neglected thing to the next, because neglect had a way of spreading unless someone put hands to it. The men came in for breakfast expecting little and stopped at the doorway. The red-haired one, Tom Pike, sniffed the air. "That real coffee?" Clara set a plate down. "Unless you prefer creek mud." Silas made a sound low in his throat. It might have been approval. Wade entered last, carrying a ledger. He sat without speaking and opened the book beside his plate. He ate as if eating were a task he intended to complete efficiently. Clara refilled his cup once. He noticed, but did not thank her. She had known men like him. Men who had been taught that needing something was weakness and gratitude was a door they could not afford to open. After breakfast, she found the smokehouse half empty, the pantry poorly counted, and the winter stores dangerously low for a ranch claiming to run cattle. But the thing that troubled her most was not inside the house. It was outside, in the yard, where 3 wagons had left deep ruts near the barn, though there had been no recent rain. By noon, she heard voices through the kitchen window. Wade's voice was low. Another man's was smooth and cheerful in the way a knife might be cheerful if it could talk. "You can dress stubbornness up as pride all you want, Mercer. Still smells like debt. I told you no, Bellamy." Judge Amos Bellamy laughed. "Your father owed money. Your herd is shrinking. Your west pasture is near dead. Now you've got a wife you never wanted and another mouth at your table. I'd call my offer merciful." Clara went still at the sink. Wade said nothing for a long moment. Then, "Get off my land." Land is a generous word for a place bleeding cattle. Off. There was the creak of wagon springs, then the sound of wheels moving away. Clara dried the last plate and looked out at the hills. That evening, she carried coffee to the porch, where Wade sat with the ledger open across his knee. He looked up when she set the cup beside him. "You don't have to wait on me." "I wasn't waiting. I was bringing coffee." His mouth barely moved. Not quite a smile. Not yet. She turned to go. "Clara." It was the first time he had used her name. She looked back. "What did Bellamy tell you before he sent you here?" Clara considered lying. Then she decided the truth would cost less in the long run. "He said you wouldn't keep me long." Something hard passed through Wade's eyes. "He also said long enough," she added. "Long enough for what?" "I was hoping you knew." Wade looked out toward the dark pasture. "Bellamy wanted this ranch before my father was cold in the ground. Now he's using old contracts and debt papers to press from every side." "Why this land?" "The creek, the crossing, the grazing rights, or maybe just because he hates being told no." Clara stepped closer to the porch rail. "Your cattle are thin." "I've noticed. They look salt-starved." Wade turned his head. "What do you know about cattle?" "My mother's people ran dairy cows in Missouri. My uncle traded cattle outside Salina. I learned what animals look like when feed is wrong, water is wrong, salt is wrong, or men are lying about all 3. His gaze sharpened. "Men lying?" Clara held it. "Cattle tell the truth if people look long enough." For the first time, Wade closed the ledger. The next morning, Clara walked the south fence line before breakfast. She did not ask permission. Asking permission gave people time to say no, and Clara had lived too long under no. The dawn was pale and cool, and the grass carried a silver edge until the sun rose high enough to burn it away. At first glance, the Mercer land looked worn but ordinary. Dry creek bed in places, overgrazed patches, mesquite and scrub spreading where good grass should have held. But Clara walked slowly, stopping often, looking at the land the way her uncle had taught her to look at animals, not at the thing itself, but at what it did not match. Near the south draw, she found it. A salt lick, half buried beneath brush, placed where cattle could reach it, but men passing on horseback might not notice. The block looked normal from a distance. Up close, Clara saw gray streaks in the surface, fine as ash. She scraped a bit with her knife and held it to her nose. Bitter. Not mineral bitter. Wrong bitter. She wrapped a shaving in a scrap of cloth and slipped it into her pocket. When she returned, Wade stood in the yard waiting. Where were you? South draw. That's not safe ground to walk alone. It's safer in daylight than at night. His eyes narrowed. Meaning? She took the cloth from her pocket and opened it. Who supplies your salt? Wade looked at it. Bellamy's store had the cheapest price after my regular supplier stopped coming. Your regular supplier stopped coming? Or someone made it hard for him to reach you? Silas, standing near the water trough, turned slowly. Wade took the shaving, smelled it, and his face changed. What is that? I don't know. But it shouldn't be in a salt block. Tom Pike came closer, his young face going pale. You think that's why the herd's falling off? I think it's part of why, Clara said. Cattle don't lose condition that fast on grass alone, unless something else is working against them. Wade stared toward the south draw, as if he could see the whole shape of the trap from where he stood. Bellamy, he said. Maybe, maybe not. But if it is him, he wants you angry before you have proof. Silas nodded once. She's right. Wade looked at Silas, then back at Clara. Something in his face shifted, not softening exactly, but making room. What do you need? Clara folded the cloth. Every salt block gathered and hidden. Every sick animal separated. Nobody rides to town. Nobody talks. And someone needs to find out whether your old supplier truly stopped coming. Wade studied her for a long moment. You give orders easy. No, Clara said. I give them when men are standing too close to a cliff. That day, the ranch changed rhythm. Tom and Silas gathered salt blocks from the far pastures. Wade rode the fence lines looking for tracks. Clara stayed in the barn with 3 weak cows and a calf that could barely stand. She mixed warm mash, clean water, and what little good salt she could find from the pantry. She rubbed the calf's neck when it trembled. She spoke to it in a low voice no one else heard. By supper, the calf had lifted its head. Tom saw it and grinned. Well, I'll be. Clara did not smile, but her shoulders loosened. Wade came in after dark, with dust on his coat and a look carved from stone. Found wagon tracks near the south gate. Not ours. Came in at night. Recent? 2, maybe 3 nights. Then someone knew where to place the salt. He nodded. She waited for him to say more. Instead, he looked at the table, at the stew she had kept warm, at the clean lamp glass, at the order she had brought into a house that had been slowly surrendering before she arrived. Eat, she said. Thinking hungry makes men stupid. Silas choked on his coffee. Wade looked at her. Then he sat. 2 days later, Bellamy returned with a banker and a smile. The judge wore a cream-colored coat, too clean for ranch country, and carried a silver-headed cane he did not need. The banker, Mr. Pritchard, had nervous hands and spectacles that slipped down his nose. Clara watched from the porch as Wade stepped into the yard. Mercer, Bellamy said warmly. I came with a kindness. No, you didn't. Bellamy's smile held. Still sour about business. I understand. Pressure does that to a man. Pritchard opened a satchel. Mr. Mercer, the bank has reviewed the outstanding notes against this property. Given herd decline, uncertain production, and unpaid interest. The interest was paid last month, Wade said. Pritchard blinked. Our record shows no receipt. Clara saw Wade's hand curl. Bellamy tilted his head. Paperwork is a fragile thing out here. Easy to misplace. Easy to misunderstand. Clara stepped off the porch. Bellamy's eyes flicked to her, amused. Mrs. Mercer, settling in? She is, Wade said before Clara could answer. The words were simple, but they struck the yard like a post driven deep. Bellamy noticed. His smile thinned. Clara looked at Pritchard. Did the bank send notice of missing receipt? Pritchard seemed startled she had spoken to him directly. I believe. Did it? He shuffled papers. Not formally. Then Mr. Mercer could not correct an error he was never informed of. Bellamy laughed softly. A kitchen woman quoting procedure. How refreshing. Clara felt the old heat of humiliation rise up her neck, but she kept her voice calm. A kitchen woman who can read. Wade looked at her then, and something like pride moved behind his tired eyes. Bellamy tapped his cane once in the dust. Read all you like. Debt is debt. My offer stands. Sell now, and I will see that both of you leave with enough dignity to begin elsewhere. Your offer is half the land's worth, Clara said. Bellamy turned his full attention on her. And how would you know the worth of land? She looked past him toward the south draw, where sick cattle had begun to stand again. By watching what men are willing to poison to get it. The yard went silent. Bellamy's face did not change much, but his eyes did. That is a dangerous thing to say, he said. It would be, Clara answered, if I had said a name. Wade stepped forward. We're done here. Bellamy held Clara's gaze 1 second longer, then smiled again. For now. After they left, Wade stood very still. You shouldn't have said that, he said. No, Clara replied, but now we know he heard it. And if he comes harder? He was always going to. Wade took off his hat and rubbed a hand across his face. For the first time since she had met him, he looked not cold, not distant, but terribly alone. Clara's voice softened. You've been fighting shadows. Now at least one of them has a face. He looked at her. Why are you helping me? She could have said because his ruin would become hers. She could have said because Bellamy had used her like a tool and she intended to break in his hand. Both were true. Instead, she looked at the house, the barn, the sick cattle, the land that had not yet given up. Because I know what it feels like to lose a place, while men with clean cuffs call it business. Wade said nothing, but he did not look away. That night, Clara found the missing receipt. Not in Wade's ledger, not in his father's old strongbox. She found it beneath the lining of a flour barrel delivered the week before, sealed in oil paper, along with 3 other pieces of mail addressed to Wade. Someone had taken them before they reached the house, then hidden them where spoiled flour would eventually be thrown out. Tom stared when she laid them on the table. How'd you think to look there? The flour smelled of lamp oil, Clara said. Flour shouldn't. Silas leaned over the letters. Bank receipt. Notice from the cattle buyer. Supply contract. Wade picked up the cattle buyer's letter and read it twice. His face went hard. What is it? Clara asked. Laramie Beef Company didn't cancel because of herd numbers. They canceled because they received a letter claiming disease on my property. Tom swore. Silas said, signed? Wade turned the paper. My name. Clara looked at the signature. It was good. Too good for a casual forgery. Someone had practiced. Bellamy doesn't just want your ranch cheap, she said. He is making it worthless first. Wade sat slowly. My father used to say a ranch could survive drought, debt, even death, if the name stayed clean. Clara touched the edge of the forged letter. Then we clean it. The next week became a quiet war. They did not confront Bellamy. They did not ride into town shouting accusations. Clara would not allow it, and Wade, to his credit, listened. Instead, they worked. Silas rode north to find the old salt supplier and returned with a statement that he had been threatened by men claiming Mercer cattle were diseased. Tom watched the south gate from the hayloft and saw lantern light twice beyond the draw. Wade found hoofprints leading toward Bellamy's leased pasture. Clara copied every forged letter, every delayed notice, every receipt, every brand record in a steady hand. And through it all, she worked the house, the animals, and the men back toward strength. She changed feed. She burned the tainted salt. She boiled water buckets. She cleaned wounds on cattle that had pushed through broken fencing. She made meals large enough to keep men upright and plain enough not to waste. At dawn, she was in the barn. At noon, she was over ledgers. At night, she sat by lamplight comparing signatures until her eyes watered. One evening, Tom came into the kitchen and stood with his hat in both hands. Mrs. Mercer? Clara looked up from the ledger. The title still startled her. Yes? I owe you an apology. Wade, sitting at the far end of the table, did not move, but his attention shifted. Tom's ears turned red. When you came, I said things. Not to your face. About your size. About how you'd never last here. I was wrong. Clara studied the young man. Shame sat on him awkwardly, but honestly. You were, she said. Tom swallowed. Yes, ma'am. She closed the ledger. Being wrong is common. Staying wrong is a choice. Silas made a small approving sound from the stove. Tom nodded. I'll do better. Good, Clara said. Start by checking the east calves before supper. He went quickly, grateful for work. Wade watched her across the table. You didn't make that easy for him. No. You didn't make it cruel either. She dipped the pen. Cruelty wastes time. A quiet settled between them. Not empty quiet, something steadier. Then Wade said, Bellamy called you a kitchen woman. He was trying to find the smallest box I would fit in. And did he? Clara looked at him. Men have been trying since I was 12. Wade's expression changed. Clara. Outside, a gunshot cracked across the yard. Wade was on his feet before the echo died. Clara grabbed the lamp. Silas took the rifle from beside the door. They ran toward the barn, where Tom was shouting. The east gate hung open. Cattle moved in a dark, panicked mass beyond the corral. Someone had cut the latch and fired into the herd, trying to scatter them toward the ravine. If the cattle broke fully, they would lose half the recovering herd in one night. Wade swung into the saddle. Silas followed. Tom ran for his horse, still yelling. Clara saw the led animals turning toward the low wash where the ground dropped sharply after the bend. Men on horseback could push from behind, but they would not reach the front in time. She ran to the old feed wagon. Clara! Wade shouted. She ignored him. She seized the dinner bell hanging by the cookhouse door and beat it with an iron spoon, hard and fast, the way her uncle had done when calling dairy cows through fog. Then she grabbed a sack of grain, climbed onto the wagon bench, and slapped the reins over the mule's back. The mule lurched forward. The wagon bounced across the yard, Clara standing wide-footed on the boards, ringing the bell until the sound split the night. The cattle hesitated. They knew that bell now. Food, salt, safety. Clara threw handfuls of grain from the wagon as she drove across their line, cutting them off before the wash. The lead cow turned. Then another. Wade came from the side, pushing hard. Silas and Tom closed behind. Slowly, dangerously, the herd bent away from the ravine and back toward the corral. A rider in the distance wheeled his horse and fled. Wade saw him. So did Clara. By the time the cattle were secured, Clara's arms shook so badly she could barely climb down. Wade reached her before she could step off the wagon. This time, he offered his hand. She looked at it. Then, she took it. He helped her down gently, as if she were something strong enough to stand, but still worth caring for. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The lantern light caught the dust in her hair, the sweat on his face, the fear they had both refused to show until the danger passed. You could have been killed, he said. So could the herd. That is not the same thing. It is to Bellamy. Wade's jaw tightened. Not to me. Clara lowered her eyes first. The next morning, they found the rider's lost glove near the cut gate. Inside, stitched clumsily into the lining, was the mark of Bellamy's stable. It was not enough for court by itself, but it was enough to tighten the net. Wade wanted to ride into town. Clara told him no. He expects anger, she said. Give him patience. It will scare him more. So, they waited. They sent copies of the forged letters to the bank president in Abilene. They sent the tainted salt shaving to a doctor who had once treated livestock poisonings during a rail dispute. They sent Silas's statement to the county marshal, not the local deputy who drank in Bellamy's saloon. Wade wrote to Laramie Beef Company with proof the disease letter had been forged, and Clara rewrote the last page herself when his anger made the words too sharp. 3 days later, a man named Nathaniel Crow arrived from Abilene wearing a black coat, carrying a leather case, and asking questions no one in Larkspur Crossing wanted asked. He was not loud. That made him dangerous. Bellamy came to the Mercer ranch within an hour of hearing Crow was there. This time he brought 2 men with rifles. Wade met him in the yard. Clara stood beside him. Silas stood near the barn with his shotgun broken open over one arm, peaceful as a church deacon and twice as final. Bellamy looked at Clara first. You have caused an impressive amount of trouble for a woman no one wanted. Wade stepped forward, but Clara touched his sleeve. Let him talk, she said. Bellamy smiled. Still pretending this is your home? Clara felt the words strike the old bruise inside her. The one men like Bellamy always knew how to find. Too large, too poor, too plain, too unwanted. A woman moved by papers, judged by shape, expected to be grateful for any corner she was allowed to occupy. But behind her, the cattle shifted in the pens. The kitchen chimney smoked. Tom stood taller than he had 3 weeks earlier. Silas watched with old loyalty in his eyes. Wade remained at her side, not ahead of her. Clara lifted her chin. "I don't have to pretend." Crow opened his leather case on the porch table. "Judge Bellamy, I have bank copies of the Mercer receipts, 3 forged letters, 1 witness statement regarding intimidation of a supplier, and a chemical opinion on contaminated salt sold through your store." Bellamy's smile faded at the edges. "Circumstantial. Perhaps," Crow said. "That is why I also spoke with your stable boy this morning." The yard went still. One of Bellamy's riflemen shifted his weight. Crow continued. "He was unhappy to learn you planned to blame him for the cut gate." Bellamy's face went flat. Wade said quietly, "You tried to stampede my herd into the ravine." "I offered you money for failing land," Bellamy snapped. "More than your father's pride deserved. You should have taken it." "There it is," Silas murmured. Bellamy caught himself, but too late. Anger had opened the door and let truth step out. Crow closed his case. "Judge Amos Bellamy, by authority of the county marshal and pending charges of fraud, tampering with livestock, mail interference, and conspiracy to damage property, you will come with me." For one breath, no one moved. Then Bellamy's hand twitched toward the pistol under his coat. Clara saw it first. She seized the bucket of wash water beside the porch and flung it with both hands. The water hit Bellamy full in the face, just as Wade drew. Bellamy stumbled, choking, blind, and Silas's shotgun clicked shut like judgment. "Don't," Silas said. Bellamy did not. When they took him away, he looked back once at Clara, soaked and furious and stripped of every smooth word he had used to hide himself. "You think this makes you respectable?" he spat. Clara stood in the dust, breathing hard. Wade answered before she could. "She was respectable before any of us were smart enough to see it." No one laughed. No one looked away. That was the moment the ranch truly changed. Not when Bellamy was arrested. Not when Crow carried away the forged papers. Not when the bank restored Wade's receipt and extended the note. It changed because every person in that yard understood who had held the line when the ranch was breaking. Within 2 weeks, Laramie Beef Company restored the contract. Within a month, the cattle began to regain weight. By autumn, the Mercer herd drove north in better condition than anyone expected, and men in Abilene who had laughed at Clara Bell now moved aside when she crossed the yard. Some still looked at her body first. They could not help the smallness of their minds. But they looked at her face next, then at the ledger under her arm, then at Wade Mercer walking beside her as if no place in the world made more sense. At the fall auction, the wild steer broke the chute. That was the day the whole town saw what the Mercer ranch already knew. Clara stepped forward when others froze. She saved Tom's younger brother from being crushed. She took the branding iron, marked the steer clean, and stood her ground while dust rolled over her blue dress and apron. Her hands shook afterward, but only after. Courage often waited until the work was done before allowing the body to tremble. The story spread faster than rain gossip. Some said Wade Mercer's unwanted wife had saved his ranch. Others said she had saved his name. A few, kinder and more accurate, said she had helped a dying place remember how to live. But Wade never called her unwanted again. On the first cold morning of November, he found Clara at the south draw where the bad salt had first been hidden. The grass there had begun to recover. Not lush, not yet, but green enough to promise something. She stood with her shawl wrapped tight, watching cattle graze under a sky pale as tin. Wade came beside her. For a while, neither spoke. Then he handed her a paper. Clara unfolded it. Her name was written beside his on the ranch deed. Not as obligation, not as contract, but as partner. Her eyes moved over the words, once, twice. "Wade, my father built the first half of this place," he said. "I nearly lost it. You saw what it could still become." She swallowed. "A deed is not a thank you note." "No," he said. "It's a promise." The wind moved over the grass. In the distance, Tom shouted at a calf trying to climb through a fence it had no business climbing through. Silas cursed mildly from somewhere near the barn. The house chimney lifted a straight line of smoke into the morning. Clara held the paper carefully. "Bellamy forced a marriage because he thought I would help destroy you." Wade looked at her. He was wrong about you. Most people are. I was. She looked at him then. He did not hide from it. I was wrong, Clara, about what strength looked like, about what help looked like, about you. Her voice was quiet. And now? He took off his hat. The gesture made him look younger, almost uncertain. Now I'm asking if you'll stay. Not because of Bellamy's contract, not because of debt, not because you have nowhere else to go. He breathed once, steadying himself. Stay because this is your ranch too. Stay because I trust you more than any person alive. Stay because I love you, and I should have had the courage to say it before half of Kansas figured it out ahead of me. Clara laughed then, unexpectedly, with tears already in her eyes. Wade looked alarmed. That wasn't the answer I hoped for. It wasn't the question I expected. Is there an answer? She looked across the draw, across the cattle, across the land that had tried to tell its story through sick animals, hidden salt, forged papers, and grass, stubborn enough to grow back after poison. Then she looked at Wade Mercer, the man who had once treated her like a burden delivered by wagon, and now stood waiting as if her yes or no could remake the horizon. I'll stay, she said, but not as a woman kept in the kitchen. The corner of his mouth lifted. I wouldn't dare. And not as a name written small. I wrote it the same size as mine. She checked. He had. Clara folded the deed and held it against her chest. Then yes, by spring, the Mercer Ranch had doubled its herd. By the next year, it bought Bellamy's old store at auction and turned it into a supply office that never cheated a rancher on salt, feed, or mail. By the third year, cattle buyers came to Larkspur Crossing asking for Mercer stock by name. Men who once whispered jokes about Wade's heavy wife now sent their sons to learn pasture management from her, though Clara made every one of them clean stalls before she let them touch a ledger. She remained broad, round-faced, strong-armed, and impossible to fit into the narrow measure others had built for her. Age did not make her smaller. Respect did not make her quieter. Love did not make her less herself. Years later, when people spoke of the Mercer cattle empire, they spoke of Wade's steady hand and Silas's loyalty and Tom Pike's long ride north with the first rebuilt herd. But those who knew the truth always began the story the same way. They said the ranch had been dying when Clara Bell arrived. They said men saw her size and mistook it for weakness. They said a judge gave her to Wade Mercer as a burden meant to break him. And they said she stood in the dust of a western yard, with poison in the salt, lies in the mail, cattle in danger, and every cruel eye waiting for her to fail, and built a future so strong that even the people who hated her had to live in its shadow. Strength is often proven in the quiet work no one applauds at first, noticing what others miss, keeping faith when a place feels lost, and treating people with dignity before they earn the crowd's respect. Clara's story reminds us that a home is built by steady hands, honest hearts, and the courage to stay kind while standing firm. A small note for you. This story was created and fictionalized by AI for entertainment, while also sharing a positive life lesson.